Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Several weeks back during the holidays, I turned this little lidded box out of two pieces of just scrap 2x4, two end cuts, just similar to this. Just a fun little project to use up some pieces of scrap. This came out very nice. I was very pleased with it. Only thing I would have done differently, and I didn't catch it at the time, was the two pieces were not from the same board. As you can maybe see, the grain pattern on the lower half here is very, very tight. Actually had some really nice figure to it. Whereas the piece that I had selected for the lid was a different piece from a different board, and the grain was much wider. So didn't really notice it, just doing something to turn a little project with some scrap, but after the fact, I wished I had selected my pieces a little bit more carefully, but was quite pleased with how it come out. And just a neat, fun little way to use up some scrap pieces and also get in some exercise with your turning tools. So in this video today, I thought I would share that process with you. I've got two additional scrap pieces. Now on this one, I paid close attention and made sure these are out of the same board. So they both have a relatively tight grain pattern. So I think this is going to match up a lot nicer. So come along with me today and let's see if we can make a lidded box out of these two pieces of scrap. Okay, got the first piece mounted up on the lathe. Off camera, I drilled a hole with my Forstner bit in both pieces. So this will wind up being the inside of each piece. So the piece I've got mounted now is the piece I've selected for the base. So the hole that the chuck is engaged in will wind up being the inside. This will be the lid, so this will be the inside of the lid. So when we get to that piece here in a bit, we'll hopefully see what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is round this, just get us a circle, and then we'll evaluate it and go from there. I do have a knot right here on the side, and there's also a little divot, but all of that should turn away. So let's see how we do. Small piece like this, I'm turning at about 1200 RPM just for the initial roughing stage. And I am using a spindle gouge. This is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. We're just going to round the piece over. Okay, let's check our progress here, see how we're coming. Alright, we're getting there. Still got some little flat edges. Now this back end here, which will wind up being the top of the bowl, or box as it were, you don't go all the way off the end. If you do, you'll splinter this top face. So what I'm going to do is get down to round here, then I'll come in from this direction, from the headstock direction, to keep from splintering that top. Okay, got the bottom rounded off. We've got just a little bevel right here on the edge, but I'm not concerned about that because we are going to reduce this for a foot and the ability to chuck it so we can turn it around for hollowing. So that right there doesn't concern me. I am down to round. So now I'm going to come in from the headstock end, going back this direction to keep from splintering these top faces. So. Okay, now we've got that done. Still got a little piece of that knot there. It does have a little chunk missing out of it. So I think we can still work with it. Let's make one additional pass from the bottom and see if we can't smooth that out. That's a little bit better, getting a little bit smoother. Got a pretty good finish off the tool. Okay, I think we can live with that. So, next step is let's get laid out here for our tenon across the bottom. Get something so we can grip it in the chuck, and then we will be ready to shape the outside. All right. Need to make sure that it's flat for starters before we go doing anything here. So let me get my square inch scraper. We'll make a pass across the bottom and ensure that it's flat. Okay, now we're nice and flat across the bottom. So let's get us a little mark, reference mark for center, and then we'll lay out for the tenon. Okay, I've got these dividers and they are set for my chuck jaws. So if we make our tenon here the size of my chuck jaws, we should be able to get a finish right out of the jaws with no marks, and we won't have to do any further work to it. So. Get a little mark in there so it'll show up better on camera. A little bit too high on the rest. Okay, good clean cut. Now we've got a good tenon established there. And before we're all said and done, we'll come back and we'll do a little decoration on the bottom because we won't turn that away. It's very shallow. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch in height. That's plenty for a small piece like that if it's sized correctly to your chuck. So now let's work on the outside shape and see what we can come up with there. Okay, well, that knot's going to mess with us here. It has broken a larger chunk out of it. It's okay, still fine. All that means is we're going to have a much shallower bowl than what we originally started out with. But again, the good thing about this, while it might not necessarily be practical, it is good practice with the various tools. So let me make a mark on here so I'll know where we've got to come down to at this point. And we'll move on ahead. So gonna have to come down to about right there. Okay, that looks better. Got a little bit of a split trying to open up right here. Not a very large one, but because it's there, let's see if we can do something here to prevent it from giving us any further issues. Put a little bit of CA glue in there. Hit it with a little bit of activator. Let that sit for just a minute and we'll take a look at everything else. This looks pretty good. I am going to clean up this edge right here next to the tenon, and then we'll make a little cleaning pass across it and see if we can't get a little decoration there. So we'll let this sit while that's happening. Let's get it set back up here. There we go. Nice little button feature in the center. Check it and make sure we're undercut enough that whenever we sit it on the table, it'll be sitting on the outer edges of the foot here and not the center. And yep, we look good there. We've got clearance. So that looks like that's set up there. So now we can do a little bit of sanding on the outside and move on from there. So we'll start out with 120 grit and we'll go up through the grits till I get to about 420. Then after I get to 420, I'm going to go to an abrasive sanding paste, and that'll get it an ultra smooth finish. Then we'll put some beeswax and mineral oil on that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I'll bring you back when I'm ready to put the beeswax and mineral oil on it. Alright, got the sanding done. Started with 120 grit, went up to 180, 240, and 320. And then I used an abrasive sanding paste. The one I use is Axe sanding and abrasive paste. This is some really good stuff. Very well pleased with this. That's a very fine grit. Gets a nice, smooth, polished surface. And now I'm going to put a little bit of mineral oil and some beeswax on the outside. Okay, nice finish there. Now we can turn it around, level off the top down past our little chip out of the knot here, and then we can start the hollowing process. The first thing we'll do is go ahead and reduce the size of this top down to the height of this line that we scribed on the side to get rid of this piece of chip out here. So we will start there. That should be sufficient. Now we need to get us a measurement for our depth hole here, so we'll know how far we need to go. So give me just a minute and let me do that. Just realized that my drill and bits are on the other side of the room. So let me pause the camera. I'll get that taken care of. I'll bring you back and we'll start hollowing. Okay, got the depth hole drilled. Not a very deep piece, but that's okay. Again, this is somewhat practical, but more for practice than anything. So now that I've got my depth hole drilled, I know where my stopping point will be. Now for the hollowing process on this little piece, I'm going to switch over to my carbide tools. We'll start out with the rougher, and then we'll make the last couple passes with the finisher. Okay, give me just a minute here. I'm going to move the camera around because I need to be standing right in front of it. So give me just a second. Well, folks, I just realized that after I moved the camera, so I would not be in front of it, I forgot to turn it back on to show you the hollowing process. I did, however, reach up and turn it on, and you got to see the sanding process. So I've got the piece out of the chuck now. Came out quite nicely. There's the inside finished. And because I told you earlier we had set this tenon to the exact size as the chuck jaws, it didn't leave any marks on it. So there's no need to turn it back around and clean that up. It's perfect right out of the chuck. So now that we've got this part done, give me a few minutes. Let me grab the other piece. We'll get it chucked up and we'll start working on the lid for this piece. All right, got set up, got the piece that's going to be the lid chucked up, and like I stated earlier, this will be the outside with our knob, and the piece we're chucked into currently on the inside, the spot that we drilled out, is going to be the inside of the lid. So just like with the base, first thing we want to do is get this round, and then we'll take some measurements to make sure that the lid is going to actually fit the base. Okay, we are round there, and just like before, we'll come in to get this side from the headstock direction coming backwards so we won't splinter it. So let me get set up here and we'll do that. Okay. Now that we've got to that point, now we're going to figure out what we want for a knob on top here. And we also have to put a tenon on this side so that we can hold the piece when we flip it around to do our hollowing and our flattening here. So what we're going to do is the tenon that we lay out here will wind up being a decorative bead so that it'll be disguised. Okay, so let's just kind of look and see what we want to do, because I want to make sure that my lid is larger than my base. It's going to fit over the base and sit on top. So it's looking good. We're right at about the maximum that we want to be down here. And of course our lid doesn't have to be as tall as the base, so that's not going to be hard to do there. We'll come down and go about roughly about 2/3 of the way of the distance of the thickness of this block, and that should be sufficient for the lid. So first thing I'm going to do is make sure this surface is flat, and we'll get laid out for our tenon, which will be our decorative bead, and we'll get our knob established, the layout for it, and we'll start shaping from there. Okay, that's going to be the diameter of our decorative bead, which will double as our tenon. Let me get that little pencil mark in there, get that dark where you can see it right there. Okay, so that's where we'll grip it. That'll also turn into, as I said, a decoration. Now we need to establish the size of our knob so we can hold on to it. And I'm thinking, given the size, looks like that's probably going to be proportionately appropriate there. So, at this point, what I'm going to do is bring some of this down. I'm going to reduce the height of it, and so we'll have an establishment there for our bead, and then we'll work on our knob. So I'm also going to make a mark down here on the circumference for what the overall finished height of this piece is going to be, and that way that'll give me an aiming point. Okay. Okay, now we've established the diameter of our decorative bead, which we'll use to hold it in the chuck. Now I'm going to reduce the height of it so our knob will be sufficient to grab onto. Okay, that looks pretty good. Knob looks pretty decent. Got a little divot in the middle for some interest. And come out quite nicely. We've got our little bead here. So we should be able to grip onto that. And I'm going to make sure that's nice and crisp as we go, so we have a good surface to grab onto with the chuck. And I'm relatively happy with the shaping out here. I'll flatten this out just a little bit and give us a little bit of a band around the outside. Okay. Alright. Okay, let's get some sanding done on the outside. I'll bring you back. We'll be ready to turn it around and start on the inside and kind of establish the depth and also the connection where it fits to the base. Okay, that turned out quite nice. Sanded up very nicely. Got the mineral oil and beeswax applied to it. So now we can turn it around and start the hollowing process, and also get the fitment, the connection between the lid and the base. Come out very nice. Got a little bit of figure here in some nice color. So that piece looks really, really, really good. So got a nice little knob there, good little profile. Okay. All right. Now let's kind of just do a quick visual check. Yeah, we've got plenty there to get our lid diameter established. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down to our line where we had our top depth established. We'll start there and then we'll move on. Okay, we got that reduced to where we wanted it for the thickness of our lid. Now we're going to double check everything. Then we'll kind of lay it out so that we know where we need to be. So we're going to be an overfitting lid, which means I need to measure the outside diameter of the base so that it will fit properly and won't wobble around. So let's get a pair of calipers here. Measure this outside diameter. Okay. Put a mark there with the pencil so it shows up on camera. Alright, that's going to be our initial aiming point. Check that, see how we're doing. Okay. Need to go just a little bit larger, which I knew that I would. Okay. All right, we're about halfway there as far as the depth goes. Now I've established a little lip here for the lid to sit on the base. Okay. So I'm going to switch now to my carbide finishing tool. That way I'll be able to dome this ever so slightly in the center, and then we'll probably put a couple lines for some decoration there as well. I am happy with that. So now let's do a little sanding and finishing. And I just noticed here we have what apparently is a bug hole that goes all the way through. Okay, so we'll just call that a design feature. So let me do the sanding, and I'll bring you back after I get the sanding done and the finish applied, and we'll get it out of the chuck and see what the finished product looks like. Okay, got all the sanding done, got the finishing done, so now we can take it off, see how we did. There we go. Came out nice. The little bead on the top doesn't have any marks. We had it sized correctly to our chuck jaws. Inside came out nice. See, we got a couple little lines there for some decorative features. Here's that little wormhole I was talking about, and I don't know if I can get it angled correctly on the screen where you can see, but it does go all the way through. But yeah, no big deal. Nice little decorative feature. It's not a major hole. So little knob came out nicely on top. Everything looks good. So now let's get the base here, and it pairs with it quite nicely. Nice little lidded box. So again, just a quick, easy little project with some scrap offcuts that we had laying around. So fun little thing. I hope you enjoyed it. So as always, if you are a subscriber, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're not a subscriber, I wish you would please consider becoming one. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends so we can get this out to more people. Leave me some comments, any questions you might have, any suggestions for future videos. And until I see you in the next video, have a great day.